think the first half was really interesting. I know we did the damage in the second half, and I know that that's what the focus will be on. It was a really dominant second half performance from Arsenal. But I thought we managed the first half brilliantly. And why am I going on about the first half, in which we created a couple of bits and pieces, maybe looked a little bit vulnerable on the transition on a couple of occasions, but generally the second half was far superior. I think the first half was really important in shaping the way that the rest of this game went. And I want to share my screen with you. I'm going to get the old trusty tactics board out. So if you're listening on audio, I will explain as best as I possibly can. But if you want to come over to the YouTube video to have the benefit of seeing the visuals, then feel free to do so. Arsenal set up against what looked like out of possession, a 4-4-2 from Real Madrid. That's what they were setting up with out of possession. At times it would change a little bit. At times you'd see Mbappe go into a more central area. You'd see Rodrigo go out to the right. And sometimes it looked like they were playing with a flat midfield five in order to just get behind the ball and make life difficult for us. We talked in the build-up to this game about how difficult it is to sort of get your head right against Real Madrid because first of all, we as a team, naturally, we want to squeeze up on people. That's how we impose ourselves, right? We bring the line really high up. We squeeze you into your own half. We go super aggressive. We move the ball with zip and tempo. This is ideal world, right? This is what Arsenal do in ideal solutions. We squeeze you up. We ping the ball really quickly. We win our duels. We're physical. We're powerful. We're directing our running, etc., etc. That's what we want to do. That's what our natural inclination is because of the way that this team has been built. In recent times, we haven't always been able to do that. And that's been because we faced low blocks, generally speaking. But the difference between facing Real Madrid and most other teams in world football is that when you face Real Madrid's low block, you're really nervous and concerned about what they can produce, even from deep, and how they can expose the spaces in behind you. When you play, with all due respect, a lower end Premier League team that have come there to park the bus, you see their threat as manageable, particularly when you've got Gabriel and Saliba there, and you've got your kind of land of the Giants defense and Declan Rice and Thomas Partey in the team. Generally, you feel like you can handle that. Against Real Madrid, though, it's not the case. You know that someone like Luka Modric can drop into the position between the two centre-backs, which he did very often yesterday. And if you squeeze too high up, he can put a ball into a space and release an Mbappe or a Vinicius or a Rodrigo, who all have incredible pace, and even the very best defenders are going to struggle to contain those guys. And so what was fascinating to me about Arsenal's first half performance, and I talked about this when we played against Manchester City on a few occasions in recent times as well. What really kind of impressed me was the balance in our game. We were willing to get our foot on the ball and try and dictate the thing as much as we possibly could. We were willing to push our defense up to kind of just shy of the halfway line, but we had a cutoff point. We knew very clearly that, yes, we wanted to go searching and we wanted to go pressing, but we knew that we were leaving space in behind. We knew that that was a risk. And the space that we allowed in behind us for Real Madrid to potentially expose, it needed to be small enough. And it needed to be an area the size that allowed David Raya to come out and control it. Now, David Raya is as good a sweeper keeper as you're going to find. He's fantastic on the ball. There was an instance in the second half where the ball came to him under pressure on his weaker foot. And rather than just lumping it long, he plays this sublime pass out to the left-hand side and finds Leandro Trossard. David Raya is as good as you're going to find at that. Okay, that's why he took the position from Aaron Ramsdale. That's why he's Arsenal's number one. And that's why he's been incredible. But so for me, it was the balance. It was knowing when to press, when to be aggressive. It was understanding how to play through Real Madrid's lines. And one of the key ways in which we'd done that, and bear with me, I'll just remove this from the screen. One of the key ways in which we'd done that was we'd push Odegaard and Rice, our 2-8s on, and we'd bring Lewis Skelly in. Lewis Skelly would come into those areas alongside Thomas Partey. He'd receive the ball. Real Madrid would, of course, look to try and close him down. Lewis Skelly going into that position would draw out one or two of the Real Madrid midfielders. And he had that brilliance and that ability to just receive it on the half turn and either play it through to someone or go on a run and carry it. And it was just incredible to see a guy of that age literally go into a game like that against Real Madrid and just look completely fearless. And I'll be honest, hands held up. I was a little bit concerned about the prospect of Lewis Skelly playing in this game alongside Kivior. I felt the two of them as a pairing could be a potential weakness for us because there isn't that same experience and that same physicality, but at least on Kivior's part. But Lewis Skelly coming into the midfield, he played that role to perfection. And that was key in us breaking the Real Madrid lines on the few occasions in the first half that we managed to get in behind and cause problems. You break the first line, you get the ball out to Saka, you get the ball out to Martinelli, and you try and hurt them from the wide areas. And maybe at halftime, my feeling was, if only we had that striker when we flashed a couple of balls across the face of the 6-yard box and no one was there to turn them in. I did feel, that was a frustration of the first half. But Lewis Skelly was key in breaking their lines. And because Arsenal did not concede too much space in behind, because their press was measured, because it was aggression at the right times, Real Madrid really did struggle to lay much of a glove on us. Did they have a good chance? They did. Mbappe forced a save out of David Raya in the first period. But other than that, we managed them so well. And this is where I talk about maturity. This is where I talk about the development of this team. And it's very easy to look at the Premier League table this season to forget about the problems we've had, the injuries, etc., and to go, Arsenal have regressed. Well, maybe in some ways their underperformance this season can be explained, and it can, injuries, refereeing decisions. I think all of that stuff is relevant in the conversation and in the discussion. But it was a night like last night where I looked at this team and I was thinking, show me that you've grown up. You showed us last season in the way that we competed with City and some of the other best teams in this country. We fell a little bit short against Bayern Munich because I think the occasion ate us up. So it was kind of like, well, show us tonight. Show us tonight that you've grown up. Show us tonight that you have learned from Bayern last season, where we gave them cheap, soft goals and gave ourselves a really difficult task in the second leg. And Arsenal did exactly that. And that's the most impressive thing about this group, this coach, this team. We are learning all the time.